We have this idea that progress comes from a single big breakthrough, some lone genius in a lab having that big eureka moment. But what if the solutions to our biggest problems are already out there, just kind of hidden in the massive amount of research we've already done? Today, we're going to talk about a surprisingly powerful tool designed to find them.
I mean, think about it. For decades, we've been throwing research at these huge, monumental challenges. But has it actually created a clear path forward? Or have we just built a mountain of disconnected facts? That's really the core question we're digging into in this explainer.
Okay, so first things first, let's get on the same page about the sheer scale of the problem. We're talking about what researchers call societal grand challenges.
And the words to really focus on here are complex and large scale. These are not problems one person or one company or even one country can tackle alone. Nope. They are these deeply interconnected issues woven right into the fabric of our global society.
Climate change, inequality, public health crises, these are the heavy hitters, right? The massive, sprawling problems we're up against. Each one has countless moving parts, and they all feed into each other, which makes them incredibly difficult to untangle.
And here's the crazy part. The problem isn't that we don't have enough information. If anything, we're drowning in it. We've got thousands upon thousands of individual studies, but each one is just a single pixel of insight. On their own, they don't form a clear picture. We're just left with this fragmented, often confusing mess of data.
So what if we could actually assemble all those tiny pixels and finally see the whole image? Well, there is a way, and it's the quiet, unsung hero of our story, the review article.
Okay, so this is the key difference right here. A single study is designed to be narrow. It answers one very specific question. A review article, on the other hand, does something completely different. It pulls together hundreds, sometimes thousands, of those individual studies. It's not about adding another piece to the puzzle. It's about putting the whole puzzle together.
By bringing together findings from a huge body of work, review articles have a power that no single study could ever hope to match. They let us see the big patterns. They expose critical gaps in our knowledge, and they reveal inconsistencies we would have completely missed otherwise.
So how in the world do they do all this? Well, let's break down the 3 superpowers of the review article. First up, building our fundamental understanding of a topic.
And we're not just talking about collecting a bunch of facts. It's way smarter than that. Reviews build knowledge by first sharpening our language, clarifying what things actually mean. Then they use that clarity to build these big picture frameworks to guide future research. And, maybe most critically, they can uncover the hidden assumptions that are shaping an entire field of study.
Get this. Reviews can even turn the magnifying glass on themselves. For instance, one major review looking at research on societal grand challenges found that the term itself was part of the problem. It was being used so inconsistently that it was just muddying the waters. The recommendation? Stop using the vague term and get more focused. That's the power of clarity.
They also build these incredible big picture models that help us understand complex systems. So instead of just looking at one thing, like how a manager influences an employee's sustainable habits, a review created a whole workplace ecosystem model. It showed how an employee's values, their colleagues, and the company culture all interact. That kind of framework is invaluable for creating real change.
All right, and this last one, this is maybe the most profound power they have, challenging the very foundations of our thinking. This famous quote from economist Milton Friedman represents a powerful ideology that has shaped business for over 50 years. This idea that a company's only real purpose is to make as much profit as possible for its shareholders.
So a review article can take a step back and analyze how an ideology like that one, which, let's be clear, is a belief, not a scientific fact, has shaped everything. It can reveal how this one single assumption has skewed value toward shareholders, justified exploiting resources, and ultimately contributed to grand challenges like inequality and climate change.
Okay, superpower number 2. It's not just about building knowledge, but about sharpening the very tools and methods of science itself.
See, reviews make the whole scientific process better in a few really important ways. They act as a critical quality check on what we think we know. They create clear roadmaps to guide future studies, and they can even help validate and enable brand new research methods.
This is where reviews are amazing. They uncover these little details that change everything. For years, people argued about the link between employee happiness and productivity. A major review confirmed that, yes, happiness does boost performance. But it also found that focusing on health-related well-being could sometimes conflict with that goal, a subtle but critical distinction that only a huge review could spot.
And reviews don't just look in the rearview mirror. After analyzing the whole field of grand challenges research, One review proposed a new guiding principle for all future studies: urgency. This pushes researchers to tackle problems that have immediate, practical relevance, moving them outside their academic comfort zones to where their work is needed most.
All right, this brings us to their third, and you could argue most important superpower, turning all that academic knowledge into real, practical, world-changing impact.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road. Reviews make knowledge useful for people on the ground by pulling it all together, reflecting on how it's being used or misused, and translating complex stuff into actionable guidance, especially when things get crazy.
Just think back to early 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic was exploding, and we needed answers like yesterday. Instead of waiting years for new studies, researchers conducted rapid reviews. They synthesized decades of existing research on everything from supply chains to human behavior to give immediate evidence-based guidance to policymakers.
You can also think of reviews as a kind of quality control for knowledge. It's easy for a company to say it's adopting the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, but are they really doing it effectively? A review can analyze what actually works, cutting through the fluff, and providing a research-backed model for how organizations can make real, meaningful progress.
So, review articles are clearly incredibly powerful. But can we make them even better? The answer is a definite yes.
So here's the game plan for the future. It's all about breaking out of those rigid academic silos to connect knowledge across different fields, engaging directly with people on the ground as true partners, and exploring new types of review methods to tackle different kinds of questions.
Now, when you try to get researchers and people out in the field working together, you run into this really interesting little problem. It's called the jingle and jangle problem. It's when a researcher and, say, a business manager use the exact same words, like culture, but they mean completely different things. What a researcher calls a cultural variable, a manager just calls a specific practice.
But here's the cool part. If you see that language gap as an opportunity, not a barrier, amazing things can happen. Researchers can work directly with practitioners to translate that dense academic jargon into clear visuals and simple, actionable tools. The payoff has been huge. This kind of collaboration has created real, measurable change in hundreds of companies worldwide.
So it turns out the solution to our biggest problems might not be some shiny new discovery. It might just be a deeper, richer understanding of everything we already know. Review articles give us the lens we need to see that big picture. The only question left is, where should we point it next?